So sometimes when we come across word problems, we can get a little anxious because we're just not used to seeing all these words in math. Our goal is to try to reduce the word problems down to something we're more comfortable with, what we can consider numerical expressions. Basically, taking everything we see in writing and reducing it down to nothing more than numbers and operations. So it becomes a math problem that we can go ahead and solve from there. So I'm going to walk you through setting up a couple of these problems and then probably going back and setting up or actually solving one of them using the tools that we know, particularly KCO, keep change opposite, and the scoreboard method. So let's go through a couple of these and get them set up if we could. So the average temperature of the South Pole is 45 degrees below zero. Now I should recognize right away below zero implies a negative number. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and write negative 45 right above um, that section of the word problem. So I know that I'm dealing with negative 45 when I do my calculation. The average temperature on the equator is 92. Now, there's no mention of that being below zero, so we should know that automatically means that it's positive. And then this is where it begins to set up what we're going to have to do with these numbers because it says find the difference, find the difference. Now that should automatically jump out to us as meaning subtract. So subtract, what am I going to subtract? I'm going to subtract the temperature of the equator and the temperature of South Pole. So what order am I going to do that? Well, generally speaking, when you see a question spelled out like that, when it says find the difference of, then the order in which you're going to set your numbers up are going to follow the order in which they are referenced in the question. So we're going to find the difference between the average temperature of the equator, 92, and the average temperature of the South Pole. So all of this problem, the average temperature of the South Pole is 45 degrees below zero. The average temperature on the equator is 92 degrees. Find the difference in average temperature is simply going to be reduced down to a numerical expression that should look very familiar to us or very comfortable to us to be able to solve of 92 minus negative 45. If I look at the next problem that looks very similar, it has the elevation of Mount Everest is 29,028 feet. It has the Dead Sea as being 485 feet below sea level. And once again, it's asking us to find the difference, so subtraction, and very specifically between Mount Everest's elevation, since that's the first of the elevations that's referenced, and the Dead Sea elevation or depth in this case. So that becomes the expression there that we can work through when we are ready. We'll go through, we'll take a look at a couple more of these problems, not taking them as far as we did in the first two, but just kind of reading through. The temperature was 18 degrees Fahrenheit last night. That's a positive 18. It is now 4 degrees below zero. And then the question says, write an expression showing the change in temperature. Now, when you find change, you're also subtracting. Okay, so once again, you're going to make use of subtraction of those two numbers. So I'll leave it to you to finish that up. Problem number 4 can get a little challenging for the fact that sometimes we get lost about what BC means versus AD. BC in the traditional calendar means basically a before zero date, as strange as that may sound. So that means negative 582. And AD is considered like a positive or after zero date. One more time, how many years apart were they born? If you're trying to find how far apart something is, one more time, we're looking at subtraction. So I will leave it up to you to finish up all of these problems in terms of writing their expressions, and more importantly, going back and taking your expression and finding the answer. So I will do that with problem number one. We'll go back up, and what we can do now is dig into our toolbox. So we know that with subtraction, that can get a little bit confusing. So the first tool I want to make use of is KCO. So I'm going to simply take that problem and rewrite it as addition by keeping the first number, 92, changing the subtraction to addition, and now taking the opposite of negative 45 and writing it as 45. And if I need to use the scoreboard for this, I'm now able to because I have an addition problem, which allows me to put the two numbers on the plus side since they're both positive, circling that my answer will be positive, and then just adding those numbers up because they are in the same column. And when we do that, we get an answer of 137. And the finishing touch we want to make sure we put on is that the 137 is degrees Fahrenheit. So always, always, always label your answer. Word problems, we want our numbers to be taken in context. So what does this answer represent? It represents the difference of the temperatures provided in degrees Fahrenheit. So I will ask you one more time to just simply go through, finish writing your expressions, and upon writing those expressions, uh, finish off by using the tools you need to, most notably KCO, keep change opposite, and the scoreboard to go ahead and answer the questions from the expressions you've written. So make sure to bring these printed and fully completed notes to class, and do not worry about the backside of this worksheet, problems numbers 6, 7, 8, and 9. We will work on those more in class. So you're only responsible for the front side of this page. So finish up the assignment, and I'll see you in class.